One of the best parts of any great MMORPG is its dungeons, and it sounds like Amazon Game Studios' New World is bringing those in droves when it releases this August, launching with 6 whole dungeons called Expeditions that range from mid-level to endgame content. The very first one you'll get to visit is Amrine Excavation, which is immediately easy to pick up and fight through with a team, minus a highly challenging boss sequence towards the end that can sneak up on you if you're not prepared for it. But it's pretty unremarkable if you aren't already engaged with New World's overarching storyline, which, if you're not all caught up, takes place in the high fantasy world of Aeternum. It's host to an ongoing war between players and something called the Corruption, a malevolent force that seeks to, well, corrupt everything in its path. The first expedition unlocks when you're level 25. And because of that low-level gate, things are kept pretty simple here. As you work your way through a linear corridor with your party, fighting monsters and collecting loot as you go, then eventually spreading out and fighting tougher monsters for even better loot. The dungeon itself looks pretty run-of-the-mill, featuring mostly standard grades and browns without much else to flavor it. And without much extra context, the monsters you fight inside of Amrine Excavation just seem like regular zombies, with a few extra tricks that I'll get into in a few moments. That said, look at how eloquently the lights shine off of these cavern walls. This is made possible by Amazon's Lumberyard engine, and it's especially noticeable if you're coming in from older MMOs like Final Fantasy XIV and Elder Scrolls Online. Balancing combat since the previous demo builds has been a major focus for the New World team, and this time around we were given a level 30 character with a ton of different weapon types to try out. We didn't get the time to try anything close to the full gamut of what was offered, but we did give a good crack at a heavy armor set, paired with a massive warhammer, a rapier, and a longsword plus shield combo. As opposed to previous demos, we were also only allowed to quick swap between 2 weapons instead of 3, and it sounds like that will be the norm going forward. The speed of combat was immediately noticeable here, especially given that the enemies moved quickly, and the flow of battle was determined by how apt each teammate was at blocking and dodging the oncoming attacks. Enemies dance around you, sidestepping and countering your attacks with their own. They're significantly more mobile here than they are in other MMOs, rarely staying in one place long enough for you to get consecutive attacks on them, and as a result, this makes everything feel much more action-oriented. This is certainly the most action-focused MMO we've seen in a long time that's decidedly a true MMORPG and not a live service game or looter shooter like Destiny 2. With only 3 slots to put abilities in and only 4 slots to put items in, and no class abilities or spells, the lean simplicity of New World may turn off some MMORPG purists who prefer the usual amount of tactical freedom. At the end of our test run, we hit a hard stop when the boss Foreman Nakashima wiped the party several times in a row. Fighting him was similar to fighting a bullet hell boss, as he summoned swarms of his ghost buddies across the battlefield in rows, leaving just enough space to dodge the attack if you timed it perfectly. We couldn't pick it up before our time was done, so we never quite got to that big box of loot that was promised to us at the end of Amrine Excavation. How the rest of New World looks at this stage, we're not quite sure. We weren't allowed to peek at anything outside of the dungeon this time around. But if our past impressions and the developers' comments are accurate, New World will provide plenty of quality hours across its large world, especially given that it promises massive 20 versus 20 player PvPvE battles, territory control, endgame dungeon crawls, rare material hunts, and much more. For more on New World, don't miss our first preview from last year, and for everything else in the world of video games, stick with IGN.